Good morning, everyone. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you later wished you could take back? Words are powerful. They can heal or they can hurt, they can build bridges or burn them down. Today, I want to share with you a simple yet life-changing lesson. Be silent in these 5 situations. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's not about having nothing to say, it's about knowing when not to say anything at all. When anger takes over, logic disappears. In moments of rage, our emotions sit in the driver's seat while wisdom is left behind. We speak without thinking, we act without understanding, and often we regret it later. That is why silence during anger is not a sign of weakness. It is a mark of tremendous inner strength. It shows discipline, maturity, and emotional intelligence. Staying silent when provoked is one of the hardest things to do, but it is also one of the most powerful. When someone says something hurtful or unfair, the first instinct is to fight back, to defend our pride with sharp words. But the truth is, words spoken in anger are like arrows released from a bow. Once they leave, they can't be taken back. They can wound deeply, destroy trust, and damage relationships that took years to build. A single outburst can undo a lifetime of respect. That is why silence in anger is not surrender, it is control. It is choosing peace over pride and dignity over drama. Imagine being in a heated argument. Your mind is boiling, your heart is racing, and your tongue is ready to strike. In that very moment, if you can pause, just pause for a few seconds, you reclaim your power. Silence gives you time to process, to cool down, and to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. The one who can stay calm when everyone else loses control is the one who truly holds power. Anger wants you to react immediately, but silence teaches you to respond intentionally. Silence in anger doesn't mean you accept mistreatment or ignore injustice. It simply means you choose the right time and the right way to express yourself. When you stay silent during anger, you are not avoiding the issue. You are preparing to address it more effectively. Once the storm inside you settles, your words become clearer, your tone becomes calmer, and your message becomes more meaningful. People listen not to how loud you speak, but to how wise you sound. And wisdom always begins in silence. Every great leader, every enlightened teacher has practiced the art of silence in anger. GAUR Gopal Das once said that anger is like fire. It first burns the one who carries it. When you remain silent in those heated moments, you are not just protecting others from your words, you are protecting yourself from the fire within. You are giving your mind the space to breathe. The more you practice this, the more emotionally strong you become. Think of silence as a shield. When you are angry, it shields you from saying things you don't mean. It gives you time to regain perspective. It reminds you that temporary emotions should not make permanent decisions. Many times, silence in the moment of anger saves you from embarrassment, guilt, and regret. Later, when your mind clears, you will be grateful that you didn't say something that could never be taken back. People often misunderstand silence as weakness, but in reality, it is the loudest display of inner strength. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, but only a strong person can stay silent when provoked. It takes courage to hold your peace when your ego demands to fight. The loudest person in the room is not the strongest one. The strongest is the one who can stay composed. Silence reflects emotional mastery, and emotional mastery is the foundation of real success. Next time you feel anger rising, take a deep breath. Step back. Choose silence, not because you are afraid to speak, but because you respect yourself enough to stay calm. You are not losing the argument. You are winning the moment. You are not giving in, you are growing up. Remember, anger is temporary, but words are permanent. Let silence be your strength, your power, and your peace. In that silence, you will find wisdom. And that wisdom will guide you far better than anger ever could. Speaking without knowing the full truth is like walking into a room but the lights off. You might think you see everything clearly, but in reality, you're only guessing. Too often, people rush to speak before they fully understand a situation. They form opinions based on fragments of information, half-heard stories, or assumptions that later turn out to be false. And in doing so, they damage trust, spread confusion, and sometimes even hurt others unintentionally. Silence, in moments when we don't have the complete picture, is not hesitation, it's intelligence. It shows maturity, patience, and respect for truth over impulse. In today's fast-paced world, where news travels in seconds and social media rewards speed over accuracy, it's tempting to react immediately. We see a post, a rumor, or a situation unfold, and we rush to give our opinion or judgment. But reacting without understanding is like firing an arrow before seeing the target. The wise choose to observe first, listen deeply, and gather facts before they speak. They understand that silence creates the space for truth to emerge, while impulsive speech often creates misunderstanding. When we speak without full knowledge, we risk distorting reality. A single assumption can lead to conflict, disappointment, or even the loss of relationships. Think about how many friendships have been strained because someone believed a rumor without confirming it. Or how often people regret harsh words spoken in the heat of a misunderstanding. Silence in such moments protects not just others, but also ourselves. It gives us time to verify, to reflect, and to understand before responding. True intelligence is not about knowing everything. It's about knowing when not to speak. Silence allows you to observe details that others miss. It helps you read between the lines, sense emotions behind words, and grasp the full story. People who are quick to talk often overlook what's really going on, while those who listen patiently gain deeper insight. The calm observer learns more in silence than the loud talker does in speech. There is also great dignity in restraint. When you choose to remain silent instead of joining gossip or speculation, you rise above negativity. You signal to others that you are guided by principles, not by hearsay. You become a person others can trust, someone who doesn't jump to conclusions or spread stories. Silence in uncertainty builds credibility. People begin to value your words because they know you speak with thought, not impulse. Silence is not about ignorance or fear. It is about respect for truth. It's an acknowledgement that every story has more than one side, every situation more than one layer. When you pause before speaking, you are giving wisdom a chance to step in. You are saying, I will not add noise until I understand. This pause, though small, can prevent large mistakes. It can save you from apologizing later for words that should never have been said. In professional and personal life alike, this principle holds immense power. In meetings, in relationships, in everyday conversations. Those who speak after understanding are the ones who make an impact. Their words carry weight because they are rooted in awareness. They don't just add to the conversation, they elevate it. And that comes only from listening first. The greatest communicators are not those who speak the most, but those who listen the best. When you choose silence until the truth is clear, you are training your mind to think critically and compassionately. You are teaching yourself to value facts over feelings and understanding over reaction. That is the hallmark of emotional intelligence and mature leadership. Every moment you hold back from speaking prematurely, you are growing stronger in wisdom. So when you find yourself in a situation filled with assumptions, opinions, or half-truths, remember this. Silence is not the absence of speech. It is the presence of awareness. It is the bridge between misunderstanding and understanding. Speak only when your words are backed by truth, and until then, let your silence speak of your wisdom. There are moments in life when our words hold more weight than we realize. A single sentence can lift someone's spirit, but it can also break someone's confidence. The power of speech is immense, and with that power comes responsibility. That is why silence becomes golden when our words have the potential to hurt someone. It is easy to speak without thinking, but once words leave our lips, they can never be taken back. The damage they cause can last far longer than we ever intended. Choosing silence in such moments is not avoidance. It is compassion, awareness, and emotional maturity. When we feel strongly about something, the urge to speak can be overwhelming. We may believe we are simply being honest, but honesty without kindness becomes cruelty. Words that are true but harsh can still wound deeply. There is a fine line between expressing truth and causing pain. The difference lies in the intention behind our speech and the timing with which we deliver it. Silence gives us the opportunity to examine both. It allows us to ask ourselves, is this necessary? Is this helpful? Will my words heal or harm? If we pause long enough to ask these questions, silence often becomes the wiser choice. In a heated conversation, our words can easily become weapons. In anger or frustration, we might lash out, thinking it will release our pain or prove our point. But instead, we end up transferring that pain onto others. Harsh words create emotional scars that don't heal easily. The silence we keep in such moments is not weakness, it is protection, both for ourselves and for those we care about. It prevents us from saying things that could destroy the trust and respect we have built over time. Silence gives emotions space to settle, and in that calm, our perspective becomes clearer. Sometimes silence also means respect. It is understanding that not every situation needs our opinion, not every disagreement requires a response, and not every truth must be spoken aloud. There are times when silence speaks louder than any explanation ever could. A quiet presence often brings more peace than 1,000 words trying to justify or correct. When we choose to remain silent instead of responding with harshness, we communicate something deeper. We show patience, empathy, and understanding. There is a kind of strength in restraint. It takes far more courage to stay silent when you could easily win an argument with words. It shows that you value peace over pride. People may misinterpret your silence as weakness, but those who understand the language of emotional strength will see it as wisdom. Silence in such moments protects relationships that words might otherwise destroy. It helps preserve dignity, both yours and the other person's. In professional life, this principle is equally powerful. A harsh comment to a colleague, a sarcastic remark in frustration, or an unnecessary criticism can poison an entire environment. Leaders who know when to stay silent and when to speak earn more respect than those who speak without thought. Silence in this sense is not inaction. It is deliberate composure. It is the mark of someone who has learned that words carry consequences. The world today is filled with noise. Everyone wants to express, argue, and prove a point. But very few pause to consider the impact of their words. The people who stand out are those who speak with purpose and pause with wisdom. Silence doesn't mean we have nothing to say. It means we are waiting for the right moment to say it in the right way. The more aware we become of the weight our words carry, the more we understand the beauty of holding them back when they could harm. Choosing silence when our words can hurt is one of the greatest acts of humanity. It reflects control over ego, compassion over impulse, and wisdom over reaction. When we hold back a word that could wound, we are not losing a battle, we are preserving peace. We are proving that our voice has value not because it is loud, but because it is thoughtful. In that silence, we demonstrate maturity, grace, and the deep understanding that not every truth needs to be spoken. Sometimes, silence itself speaks with more kindness than any words ever could. When someone is going through pain, the natural instinct for many of us is to speak, to comfort, to advise, or to try to fix what's broken. But often, in our eagerness to help, we forget that not every wound needs words. Sometimes the greatest comfort we can offer is our silent presence. When someone is hurting, silence becomes more powerful than speech. It creates a space of understanding, compassion, and connection that words often fail to achieve. It is not the eloquence of our advice, but the warmth of our presence that truly heals. When a friend, family member, or colleague is in pain, they don't necessarily need solutions. They don't always want to hear, "It's going to be okay," or "You'll get through this." They may simply need to feel that someone is there with them, that they are not alone in their suffering. In those moments, silence speaks louder than any motivational phrase ever could. It says, "I see you, I hear you, I'm here for you." No words are required because your empathy fills the silence. People in pain are often not seeking explanations, they are seeking understanding. When we rush to fill the silence with words, we sometimes unintentionally minimize their emotions. We might say things meant to comfort, but they can come across as dismissive. Phrases like "everything happens for a reason," or "at least it's not worse," may seem positive, but to someone hurting, they sound hollow. In silence, however, there is no misunderstanding, only presence. Sitting beside someone in quiet solidarity can convey more care than hours of talking ever could. True empathy doesn't always require expression, it requires attention. When we choose to be silent, we allow the other person the freedom to speak, cry, or simply sit without pressure. Our silence gives them permission to feel. It becomes a safe space where their pain is respected, not analyzed. This kind of silence is not passive. It is active listening. It is the art of being fully present without needing to control or fix the situation. It tells the other person that their emotions are valid and that they are not being judged. In a world where everyone wants to talk, listening has become rare and silence has become sacred. When someone is vulnerable enough to share their pain, they are not looking for answers. They are looking for connection. They want to be understood, not corrected. The quiet listener becomes a mirror, reflecting back empathy and acceptance. Through silence, you can communicate the most powerful message of all: you are not alone in this. That kind of presence can be healing in ways that words cannot measure. Many people struggle to sit in silence with someone's pain because silence feels uncomfortable. It confronts us with emotions we'd rather avoid: grief, fear, helplessness. So we fill the air with noise, thinking it will make things better. But true healing happens when we allow that discomfort to exist. By remaining silent, we give others the courage to face their emotions fully. Our calmness can become their strength. Our stillness can become their refuge. The beauty of silence in moments of pain is that it connects us on a deeper human level. It transcends language, culture, and circumstance. You don't need the perfect words to comfort someone, you just need to be present. A gentle touch, a kind glance, or simply sitting side by side in silence can bring more peace than any speech could. That quiet companionship reminds the person that they are seen, valued, and loved even in their darkest hours. There will always be times when words are not enough. In those moments, silence becomes the purest form of compassion. It doesn't try to explain or fix. It simply embraces. The silent heart says more than the clever tongue ever could. When someone is in pain, speak less and listen more. And when words fail, let your silence speak of empathy, patience, and love. Sometimes the most healing sound in the world is not a voice. It is the sound of silence shared between two souls who understand each other without saying a single word. Listening is one of the most underrated yet powerful skills a person can possess. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, to express opinions, and to be heard, very few truly listen. Silence, when used in the right way, becomes the foundation of genuine understanding. It creates space for ideas to grow, for relationships to deepen, and for wisdom to emerge. When we choose silence instead of rushing to respond, we allow ourselves to fully hear what others are saying, not just with their words, but with their tone, emotions, and intent. Silence, in this way, becomes a bridge between hearts and minds. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They wait impatiently for their turn to speak, formulating responses even while the other person is still talking. But true listening demands presence, patience, and humility. It means silencing our internal chatter and focusing entirely on the person in front of us. When we are silent and attentive, we send a powerful message: you matter. Your words have value. That kind of attention is rare and deeply meaningful. It builds trust and respect in any kind of relationship, personal, professional, or emotional. Silence also sharpens our perception. When we listen with intent, we begin to notice what lies beneath the surface, the pauses, the emotions behind the words, and the things that are left unsaid. These subtle details reveal more about a person than their words alone. Silence gives us the chance to pick up on these hidden truths. It teaches us empathy, allowing us to connect with others on a deeper level. In that quiet observation, we begin to understand not just what people say, but why they say it. In leadership and communication, silence is often the key to wisdom. Great leaders don't dominate conversations. They listen carefully, absorbing different viewpoints before making decisions. They understand that every voice adds value, and that listening is not a sign of weakness but of strength. A leader who listens creates an environment of trust where people feel heard and respected. Silence becomes a tool for gathering insight, fostering creativity, and making thoughtful choices. In contrast, those who speak too quickly often miss opportunities to learn. Silence also helps in managing conflict. During disagreements, our instinct is to defend ourselves, to prove a point, or to win an argument. But silence gives us the power to stay calm and composed. When we listen instead of reacting, we diffuse tension and open the door to understanding. Many conflicts could be avoided or resolved if one person simply chose to be silent and listen with empathy. In that quietness, anger softens and solutions begin to surface. Listening in silence allows emotions to settle and reason to take the lead. Beyond communication, silence is also essential for personal growth. When we listen to others, we expand our perspective. We learn new ideas, challenge our assumptions, and grow wiser. But this can only happen when we are silent enough to absorb what the world is trying to teach us. Life itself speaks in whispers, through experiences, through people, through moments of reflection. Those who are always talking often miss these messages, but those who stay silent long enough to listen begin to hear life's deeper lessons. Silence is not emptiness, it is awareness. It allows us to listen not just to others, but also to ourselves. When we quiet the noise around us, we begin to hear the voice within, the one that guides us toward clarity and peace. In that silence, we can reflect, reset, and realign with our values. Listening to others begins with listening to oneself, and both require the discipline of silence. When we learn to embrace silence as a form of listening, our relationships transform. We become more empathetic partners, better friends, wiser leaders, and more peaceful individuals. Silence teaches us that communication is not only about speaking, it is about connecting. When you listen in silence, you are not just hearing someone's words, you are hearing their heart. And that, more than anything else, is what makes communication truly meaningful. True strength is not measured by how loudly a person speaks or how forcefully they react, but by how calmly they remain centered when the world around them is chaotic. Silence, in this sense, is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of peace. It reflects an inner maturity that can only come from emotional balance and self-awareness. When you reach a point in life where you no longer feel the need to react to every criticism, argument, or provocation, you begin to understand what real power looks like. Silence becomes your language of confidence, your mark of self-control, and your shield against unnecessary conflict. In a world where people constantly seek validation, the ability to stay silent shows that you no longer depend on others to define your worth. You don't need to prove anything because your peace speaks for itself. Silence in such moments is the sound of strength. It shows that you have grown beyond the need to respond to negativity. You understand that every reaction costs energy, and not every battle deserves your participation. When you choose silence, you are not avoiding the situation. You are protecting your peace. You are prioritizing inner calm over external chaos. Maturity is often revealed in how you handle provocation. The immature person argues to be right. The mature person stays silent to stay peaceful. This silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It takes tremendous courage to stay calm when your ego demands that you fight back. But when you resist that urge, you rise above the situation instead of sinking into it. You learn that silence is not a loss of voice. It is the choice to use your voice wisely. It is understanding that not every opinion requires your response, and not every confrontation needs your presence. Silence also reflects deep emotional intelligence. It shows that you can observe your emotions without being controlled by them. When someone offends you or criticizes you unfairly, silence allows you to process your feelings before reacting. You give yourself time to understand whether the issue is truly worth your energy. That pause, those few moments of silence, can make the difference between regret and respect. People who can master that space between emotion and reaction are the ones who live with greater peace and clarity. Inner peace comes from discipline. It comes from training your mind to stay calm, even when everything around you demands a reaction. Silence teaches you patience, and patience teaches you power. The more you practice silence in stressful moments, the more emotionally grounded you become. You begin to realize that silence is not emptiness, it is control. It is the ability to stand firm in your values without letting others dictate your emotions. In that quiet confidence, you discover your truest self. In professional life, this kind of silence can be transformative. A calm leader who listens more and reacts less earns respect effortlessly. This silence in tense situations projects strength and thoughtfulness. They don't need to dominate the conversation to command authority. Their composure speaks louder than any words could. This same principle applies in personal relationships as well. When you can stay silent during misunderstandings, you give space for truth and empathy to surface. Silence becomes a tool for harmony rather than distance. The maturity to remain silent is a sign of self-mastery. It means you have reached a point where your peace is no longer negotiable. You no longer get drawn into drama or noise because you value your inner stability more than temporary satisfaction. You realize that not everything deserves a reaction, and sometimes the best way to respond is not to respond at all. This kind of silence is not cold or indifferent. It is wise and intentional. It protects you from wasting your energy on things that don't matter and keeps you focused on what truly does. Over time, silence becomes a reflection of the calmness within. You stop chasing explanations, stop defending yourself unnecessarily, and stop reacting to every opinion. You learn to let things be, to allow others their perspectives, and to walk away without resentment. This kind of silence is not empty. It is full of understanding. It shows that you have evolved beyond the need for validation or approval. You are no longer driven by ego, you are guided by peace. And that ultimately is the highest form of strength a person can attain. So, my friends, remember these 5 golden moments of silence. When angry, when uninformed, when words can hurt, when someone is in pain, and when it's time to listen. Silence is not emptiness. It's full of meaning, patience, and strength. As GAUR Gopal Das beautifully says, speak only when your words are more beautiful than your silence. Let your silence speak of your wisdom, your kindness, and your peace. Thank you.